wires X mode, and that basically turns off the internal brains of it. So like if you connect it to a DR1X or DR2X, what's going to happen is that the internal controller disables, and it looks to the frequencies and everything in the wires X software. Okay. It does require UDP ports to be open if you are running version 1.57 or older. Okay, we're going to cover that 2.0 in a minute. Does require a Windows computer. I can't go into specifications, we'll put it that way, because I like to keep my job. But you can, we will run it in Windows. There are things in Windows that are safeguards that we have to have it run in Windows. That's all I can say on it. I know people ask, can we run it in Linux? Can we run it in Mac? Some people run it in Parallels. Some people run it in, what do they call, Windows for Linux or something like that. They've had some success and others have had no success, but the ultimate way to make sure your wires X software node runs is with a Windows computer. Now let's talk about PDN operation on there. So that's going to be our mobiles and portables again. Does not require the HRI for HRI 200 for operation. Requires the cabling kit. There's two different modes. There's PDN, personal digital node, where you can only talk to other digital nodes, and then there's HRI mode. HRI allows you to talk to digital or analog modes. Does anybody know what HRI actually was designed for? Why it was called the HRI 1, now it's the HRI 200? Does anybody know what it means? Were you in my class yesterday? There you go. See, he remembered, folks. All right.
Ham radio interface?
Human radio interface. Human radio. Close. And that concept came because you are the user accessing it, and it's the radio interface on there. So it was kind of cool how where HRI came up, but it does require the HRI 200. However, one of the drawbacks to PDN operation or HRI operation in this case is if you do the RF link, so I take my handheld, talk to my PDN mode and access point, it only does digital. It doesn't do analog. You can go into the Wires X network on digital and talk to analog users, but it won't let you do analog over the air for it. So when you're talking about PDNs, you'll hear us, if you ever call in, we're going to ask you what mode of operation you're in. Are you in PDN or are you in HRI? Now to confuse you even more, because that's what we like to do, we decided to say, hey, not only modes of operation, let's have it as types of operation. And the types of operation are direct, which you're using the speaker and the microphone for on the radio, or access point. Now access point is like an access point, like a Wi-Fi access point, right? You use your radio, you talk to it via RF and digital voice mode, then your node hears it, sends it on down the network. Direct means direct. You're not using a radio, you're going to be using the microphone and the speaker of the radio to talk into the Wires X network. So your radio, like your $600 FTM 500 or 510 turns into a glorified speaker microphone. It's true. So those are the two different types of modes on there. Now, looking to the future. System Fusion 3, the third generation, as I said, focuses on infrastructure and networking as a main key thing. What we had heard from a lot of people is we get this thing of saying, I don't want to have so much equipment hanging off. I don't want to have to carry an HRI 200. I don't want to have to, the cables and this and a 10-pin mini-DIN cable, and John Yaesu stupid because it was like a proprietary 10-pin, da-da-da-da. So we heard it. We heard you. And what we did is we said, okay, let's make the change. And the change that we're moving to is how the FTX1 and Wires X are going to operate. I got to boot up my other computer here real quick. But while does anybody have any questions? Mark, do you want to, if you run around, if anybody has a question, what we talked so far, I'm going to hook up my other computer, and then we're going to look at Wires X version 2.0, and then we're going to look at the FTX with it.
Anyone have any questions?
I have a 901A, and I have to use a high computer to interface to Wires X. I guess. Because I can't do there's no repeater in mine. So, is that the preferred way to do it, or is it going to change with these FTX?
No, so good question. So how can you access wires X if you have an FT991? So the FT991, when it came out, it had the ability to transmit on Fusion, but the audio circuitry that we use for, in essence, PDN now, was used as part of the sound card. You have to remember, the FT991 came out in 2014. So right after Fusion came out, it replaced the 897. So it wasn't there then. Now, could you hook an HRI 200 up to your FT991 to use it analog, then to go into the network? Yes, you can. But if you want to do digital voice with your FT991, you would either have to have like a handheld or something to access the Wires X network that way. If that makes sense.
Any other questions? Going back.
Now, I'll talk loud. I came in a little bit late. About 10 minutes ago, you said you needed to have Windows in order to do whatever it was.
Correct, Wires X.
You had to have Windows running on a computer attached to the repeater, or Windows attached to your radio as a client?
Correct. So you have to have Windows running the Wires X software, which then either connects with the SCU cables to the radio, or the HRI 200 connected to the radio.
But the repeater itself doesn't need Windows running.
No, the repeater itself doesn't need Windows, but the HRI 200 connected to it does.
Right. Okay.
I'm probably a little different on some of this because I'm a field network engineer. I do tier 3 work, which means I travel state to state to state, and I have a FT510. And one of the things I run into all the time is that the repeater guides and stuff will tell you where the fusion repeaters are, but not what the settings you got to do. And I'll start using my radio on a fusion repeater, and I'll get off our repeater because you're messing it all up. You're talking over in Florida, not where we're at, and get off of it now because you got to use these settings and these settings and these settings. Is there a way to find the right settings?
Sadly, to be honest with you, that comes to marketing and how people present their repeaters, right? It's kind of on the due diligence. I won't get into like on a personal platform and stuff, but I can go ahead and tell you right now, off the top of my head, I can go to 3 different resources for everywhere in the United States, and it'll give you 3 different sources of information on what the repeater does or doesn't. It's open. Fusion was designed to be open. So if a person wants to have it only connected to one specific repeater or one Wires X node or IMRS or something like that, that's their prerogative. We do have suggestions of what people could do, what people should do, but you lead a horse to water, can't make him drink necessarily, right?
Any other questions? Wow, we answered all.
All right. So kind of talking about Yaesu System Fusion 3 here. I'm going to make sure I get booted up here. But what are the concepts we changed to, and you can relate to this here, the quagmire of IPv4 versus IPv6. So Wires X used to need a global non-NATed IP network address, and that network address needed to see and have UDP ports open. The problem is that as we start to move to different types of technology, IPv4 is slowly going away, right? And with IPv4 going away, IPv6 is replacing it. Well, Wires X didn't work with IPv6, so we came out with version 2.0. And you gotta remember, when we're doing the software, we're doing the software for a global standard, right? IPv6 is a standard, IPv4 is a standard. However, we gotta do things different in America. What we did is we found out that there are some places which are IPv6, like your T-Mobile hotspots and your Verizon hotspots and AT&T hotspots, and even some home services. And then there are some that are just still IPv4. And then there's some that are IPv4 and IPv6 stacked. And then there's some that were IPv6 to 4. So meaning it looks like IPv6 within their network, but then it goes out on IPv4. That was problematic. One of the reasons and why we went to version 2.0, one of the things we went to, and the reason we went to 2.0 is 2.0 does not care if you're IPv4 or IPv6. It really doesn't. But for those instances where we had issues of some of those cellular providers or internet providers doing this IPv4 or IPv6 thing, it was quite problematic. So what ended up happening is we had this issue, and when this issue arose, we said, okay, some people had issues connecting, there was some issues doing it, but more importantly, when we release a new version of WiresX, the reason we're releasing this new version of WiresX is because there's an update to it for radio support or some other changes. People are like, well, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Well, but it's not. It's broke in a way, right? So we went along and we did that aspect of it, and there were some people that gave us good comments and feedback and everything like that, and then when they gave us good comments and feedback, then when it came and gave us good comments and feedback, then what ended up happening is we were able to get everything kind of going, and we knew IPv6 was going to be the way to go here. Now, part of it also went along and boiled down into it of saying, hey, here's the deal. Part of it also boiled down to in saying, hey, here's the deal. We needed to be able to find the network sooner. We need to be able to find the network faster here. And sorry about this. Sorry to do it this way. And in that case, in that scenario and situation, that's what 2.01 did. Now, part of the things about 2.01 versus 1.57, 1.57 is not compatible forwards with 2.01 unless you have backwards compatibility turned on. If you don't have backwards compatibility turned on, then it's not going to work for you. So with that being said, it's important for people to upgrade to 2.01. If you have 1.57, you are not going to allow users of the FTX1 to go ahead and operate on there. Let's save that real quick. Close it here real quick. And then furthermore, when you have the situation also pop up, if you don't have that backwards compatibility, you're not going to allow new users to talk with their radios that they want to, and then you're not going to have old users talk with the radios that they want to on there. So, 2.01, plug it. All right, so 2.01 is going to be the new standard of things. And when we have 2.01 to start to take place on there, you're going to see a change of things happen. And the biggest thing that's going to start to happen is you're doing the ecosystem. One of the ways that System Fusion 3.0 took place and everything on there is, by the way, I'm just connected on this phone here. Look at how fast I already keyed up. So we wanted to make WiresX more usable and accessible. Part of that also too is you see this is the FTX1. Our thought process is now moving to flexibility and versatility heavily. Starting with the FTX1 and stuff you're going to see progress out there. The FTX1 can operate in direct mode, meaning you can use your microphone and the speaker on the radio and be able to communicate. It's going to be able to be operating in what they call AP mode, which is going to be your digital usage mode, so in essence PDN. It's going to allow you to operate in AP PC mode, which is going to allow you to operate as an analog node. But also too is we want to take it forward, and right now with the WiresX software and the FTX, this is all you need right now to host a room. So the HRI-200 is not needed for it. But if you take a look at how the ecosystem is with WiresX now, you'll see in the bottom there, it's taking a few moments to connect because I just turned it on after I booted off, so it's reestablishing the network. This is all version 2.01. there's not really a change for anybody to see on there. How many are using still version 1.57? Do you see a change on there? No, you don't, because there's no change operationally. The change is some of the features we added on there, so behind the scenes. So for an example, right now, if you go in the upper left corner, or upper right corner here, you can actually tag that.
OneDrive, the scourge of my eyes.
They don't like it. But you can toggle off your node. So you can put your node in now to receive only mode. So it's not going to transmit out. So if you want to sit and monitor wires X, you can do that. Biggest thing that's coming on here, and this will even show you the proof of the point that this is room capable. Look at what we have here, the IP specs. So you have the ability to select wires X now if you want to run IPv4 or IPv6. How many people know if they have IPv4 and IPv6? Exactly. If you don't worry. Wires X will figure it out for you. Alrighty, it will determine what is the best for you. You may be able to click on it. If you say, hey, I know I have IPv6, I want to use IPv6, great. There we go. It just connected, and it just connected to my room automatically. So with that being said, you have that ability now that the system will help determine what you want to do. And actually, this is a room that people are playing with over at the booth there.
People come in and always use all my stuff all the time. But what happens then is in this case and scenario,
It will start doing the work for you. And when it starts doing the work for you, it alleviates things. But in this case, what you can do here is if you take a look and you want to connect to your own room, or actually we'll start over here. Let's go back to file here. If you want to make it so people can connect to your own room here, do you see this where it says new version only or old version compatible? So new version only means anybody who's using 2.0. Only 2.0 users can see your room. Alrighty? If you select to old version compatible, it's going to give you this alarming thing. Hey, you're changing things. Okay, cool. We're fine. Let's reboot. And then when it reboots, it will go back into old version compatible. Now remember how we said we had to have UDP ports open? Well, guess what? If you're still using version 1.57, you are going to have UDP ports open. This is why we're telling people, if you want to not have to worry about ports anymore, you should go to WiresX version 2.01. Okay? This is the thing, because how many people have heard the rumor that if you put old version compatible, 2.0 can go back to 1.57? If you've heard that, that is wrong. Old version compatible basically means your room to be able to go back to there. Now notice is old version compatible, my IP spec is going to be 4. Watch what happens if I try to go to 6. It's going to go ahead and error out. It's going to say, hey, you're changing me to look for IPv6. Okay, fine, not a problem. It will exit the software, and then it will come back in. If I reopen up the software, you'll see something interesting change with that. And in this case, my room compatible still says old version compatible on there, but look at it, because I have old version compatible selected, I can't go to 6. So in order to do 6, you'd have to go new version, it's gonna yell at you, and it's telling you, because it's changing networks, it's changing the way that you can connect people or have people connect to you. And then we go back into it, now you will see with WiresX on it, on how you can now, since we have new room compatible, now look what happened. I'm on IPv6. Does that make sense for everybody? And that's the thing, and here's the personal preference. The personal preference really is what it is. Do I stay on IPv6 or IPv4? Well, if you're on 6, you only get new users, right? The new version users. If you're on IPv4, you can have old version compatible, which means people can connect back into you, but you're going to have to open those UDP ports. This concept with the FTX1 is the start. That's all I'm going to say on there. It's the start. But now it's going to allow you to do what I'm doing here. Have access to the internet, have a PC, and have that radio there. And now I can host a room. I can connect to rooms. I can do whatever I need to. So, question in the back there.
Do we need a static IP address for this?
No, that's the best part. No ports, no more static IP addressing, nothing. As long as you get an internet connection, with version 2.0 and you don't want to have backwards compatibility, you're good to go. Not only for this, but if you're using an HRI 200 on IPv6 also. So it really kind of eliminated that hassle that so many people have, or starting to have more and more each day.
In 6 months, it take me to figure out how to make it work with Starlink.
Actually, we've had people that have said now with version 2.0 and IPv6, Starlink works.
I'm playing that for 6 months at least, so.
Yeah, and if you're on
Not
2.0,
the new version, not 1.57.
that's why, because 1.57, you need that, it's IPv4, need ports, need a static IP. Not a static IP, but a global facing IP, that's what I would say. Any other questions? I know I kind of hurried this because they ran over on the other time here. Yes, sir.
Number one is on the DR1X and DR2X. When you come in on the F1, it takes priority over digital.
No, it does not.
It does not.
No, it does not. The way the DR2X for sure, the DR1X, the DR2X did better timing, but it treats the signals as the same. So it's going to be first signal to the machine and valid mode. So it's like, if it hears an analog signal and a digital signal, but the analog signal doesn't have the right PL tone, but the digital signal meets the requirements, it will go to digital.
But if you have to have digital to hear digital. Right?
I'm sorry, say again?
You have to have digital to hear digital, or will it go to analog as well?
No, it will go to, if you have it in AMS mode, it will vote. It will vote which one to do, analog or digital.
Okay, we can't do both.
It can't do both at the same time. No, I cannot. Yep.
The next question is, with WireX, is there any plans in the future with the new system to interface with YSF?
No, so YSF is basically a reverse engineering of our Yaesu System Fusion over the air protocol, which we call CAI, Common Air Interface. They reverse engineered it to see how the protocol works and put it on those devices. So they are on their own network, and being on their own network, they're not Yaesu devices, they don't have DPIDs, they basically just are tunnels. There's no way to find out who is using it, they're not gonna connect to our network. Okay. Any other questions? Yes, sir, way in the back.
Yeah, we run our repeater in group mode all the time.
Okay.
Are there any changes with 2.01?
No, it's still going to require like a whitelist, it's still gonna require the setup, the way that it is and stuff like that on there. Group mode is designed and thought of in the WireX concept of being sort of an open but closed repeater is really what it is, or WireX node I should say. Meaning you beacon out, when you beacon out with the group mode on your WireX node to radios that are on that whitelist and they beacon back, that's like the access, that's like the handshake, the secret squirrel, symbols and everything. It's still gonna operate in that same manner. Yep. That's really what the upgrade feature is. And I kind of joke about that because there's people who are saying, like, okay, it goes back to that adage. If one person says one bad thing, 3 people will hear it, those 3 people tell 3 people, right? That kind of thing. People were saying 2.0 were broken. It wasn't. What we designed it was, because it was working around the world, it's just some internet service providers had it. What we told people is that, and we have 1.57 on there, take your time, upgrade, and call us. Endolph, if anybody knows Endolph Buckley, myself, Edwin Lopez, we take calls all the time on it, and we educate people. I mean, I've had people that were like against it, like they were in the room and they started out, I'm gonna start out on the Zoom meeting by telling you what WireX is stupid for going to 2.0. I'm like, cool, let's do it. All right, let's go through it. And then by the time you show them the features, how to mute someone in the room, how to kick someone out of your room, to do these things, and I said, look how fast it connects, look how easy it connects, then they're like, oh, I guess the hype was bad. See, you can't be afraid, right? We're amateurs, we experiment. We blow up who has not blown up a couple capacitors in their life building kits? Or, well, I can't talk about that, still sexual limitations. Yeah. It was not my fault, okay? And an acquittal is not a conviction. All right. Any other questions? Yes, sir. No, so remember the concept of IMRS, good question. IMRS was designed to not require the internet, but to require a IP connection. And right now, still internally, I know we're slowly migrating to IPv6 on internal connections. If you get some routers, you can select IPv6 now. But in all intents and purposes, it's still remaining in that IPv4 net addressing on there, because that's where the majority of things reside in right now. Networking right now, from what we did from our collection data, and private networks or home networks, I think really globally there's only like 13% that are utilizing IPv6 in these networks. So at this point in time, no, it's not going to. But good question. Any others? All right, if you haven't, stop by the Yaesu booth. We'll have a demonstration on here. We also have the DR3X, which we announced here. No pricing, no availability yet. We anticipated by July, August is when we'll have it out for sale on there. We have some features on it now. I can tell you there's more features coming, but we wanted to introduce people to it today and start to let people understand what it is, because there's some features on it that are beyond what people thought a repeater could do or should be able to do. So I thank you everyone for going in and doing it, and as I always tell everybody, I never know when my last day is ever going to be on this earth or with this job, so thank you for listening to me, and I know I have a face for radio and a voice for instrument.